Welcome to our Meet the Candidates interview series. We have South Anchorage candidate Albert Fogle. How are you doing?
Good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So I'm just going to start with what makes you the most qualified candidate for this assembly seat?
Well, as an Iraq War veteran and a fiscal conservative, I really feel that I represent the true values of our district. I have a pretty good platform where I'd like to have an effective public safety department, as well as that fiscally conservative agenda, but make sure that our budgets are sustainable and have a tax structure that is going to bring some property tax relief to the homeowners.
If voters agree with you and you're elected, what is your first priority, first thing you're going to do when you get into assembly, which you kind of just touched on, if you want to speak more on that?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing that we tackle when we if I'm hopefully elected to become part of the assembly is we start talking about the budget. And so I've been thankful to have the support of Bill Evans, the outgoing assembly member, and he has already given me the budget. So I've been able to go through that already. It's about a binder about this thick, but there are some inefficiencies in government, and I think that one of the first things I'd like to do is start addressing those, especially seeing where we can save some tax dollars on the SAP technology program. I know that that's far along in the process, but we can start whittling down the amount of excess spending that we're doing there. Also, I'd like to look at the lobbyist program that we have with the assembly. We currently have three lobbyists that we pay for, and I'd like to either pare that down or completely reduce that to zero. And I'd also like to start looking at the amount of overtime that the managers and the employees of the city are utilizing and see how we can effectively manage that so we don't have to use so much overtime. And so that's just some of the ideas that I've decided to tackle as sort of my first foray onto the assembly.
Well, I'm glad you have the budget and that you've read through it, because I had another question for you specifically about the budget they just passed. You've identified some areas you think we could trim more. What areas would you want to funnel some funds into?
Well, I think if you look specifically at like the overtime issue, the Alaska Dispatch News did an article about 3 weeks ago that showed because of some mismanagement of vacation time, especially during the summer months, over the past 9 years, we've spent over $15 million in overtime expenses. And so I think if we were able to take some of that money that we're spending excessively and push it into the public safety realm, I believe we would be able to have a right-sized police force, as well as an issue that's near and dear to my heart down in South Anchorage is effective May 1st, the state troopers are pulling off of Turnagain Arm. So there's going to be no police coverage past McHugh Creek down to Girdwood. So we definitely need to take some of those resources that we can save in the budget and push them into public safety, so that we're able to have an effective public safety department.
What is the answer there with the highway? What do we do?
Well, I think with a $500 million budget, we certainly have enough money where we can afford the right size police force. And it's just taking those already existing resources and pushing them down into the Turnagain Arm area. Another area that we could possibly look at is, we have a lot of the community policing. We're starting to see that happen in downtown and Fairview, but we could have maybe some dedicated officers that could be on the Turnagain Arm area as well to really start patrolling that area. But we do need some more police officers out on the street, and that's because we have a lot in training right now. So from what I'm being told, those are going to be coming online here in the next few months. So we should see some more police officers on the street. But what I've been talking about is finding those areas in government where we're being inefficient and pushing those funds into the public safety department.
All right, do you support a sales tax as a way to shift the burden from property tax owners, a sales tax under the cap?
Well, I really feel that the property tax owners are being burdened too far in Anchorage. They're being asked to burden the entire cost of the city. Sure, there's some incidentals that help fund the city as well in the state, but the ever more increasing portion of the pie continues to be burden on the property tax owners. So I feel that we need to do something in this city to lower the property tax burden for property owners and sort of broaden the base for the taxation of the city.
And do you think that would be a sales tax?
I'm open to anything right now, but really I'm really for broadening the base and lowering property taxes.
All right. Let's talk about the homeless issue. What
Yes.
grade would you give the Muni on how it's handling homelessness?
Well, unfortunately, I think homelessness is a chronic problem. And I think, as everyone would like to say, I'd like to solve this problem, I don't think you can. So I think it really takes coordinating with like the nonprofits, the tribal organizations, and the faith-based community to really help coordinate all those different entities to help the homeless population in our city. I don't think we're ever going to get rid of homelessness, but it's how effectively can we manage that.
You mentioned public safety is a big priority. The
Yes.
mayor wants to add another 56 officers to the force this fiscal year. Do you think there are other ways the Muni can address public safety concerns in addition to hiring more officers?
Well, you know, I really think that I don't know if we need to hire specifically 50 some odd police officers. Again, we have on the books about a little over 400 police officers. So I really think it goes back to we need to get to start doing community policing. We also need to make sure that the police officers that are going into each community are the same officers going back into those communities, so they start making those connections. As well as we need to work with the state to make some corrections to SB 91. They went a little too far. They call it the quote-unquote catch and release program, you know, where they catch a criminal and they write them a ticket or just tell them to come back in a couple of days for a hearing. So we need to end that, and I think we also need some stiffer penalties for some crimes that are being committed. And I think finally, one thing that we can do as a city is we can encourage economic development so that it increases the entire tide. So when a great thing that Ronald Reagan used to say was, rising tide rises all ships. And so I think that's one thing that we could do in our city is if everyone's feeling economically better, I think that we're going to have a lot less crime in the city as well.
The mayor has said that he will not allow our police department to round up refugees for the Immigration Service, even under the threat of losing federal funds. Do you agree or disagree with his position?
I completely disagree with Anchorage becoming a sanctuary city. I think that's irresponsible of the mayor, and he needs to comply with federal laws, just like he would want a regular property tax owner up there on Bear Valley or in Golden View or on the hillside or down in Ocean View. If they were doing something out of compliance and the city told them, you have to come into compliance, the homeowner couldn't say this is a sanctuary property right here. They would have to come in compliance because the mayor would send down his enforcement officers to their property. So I think the mayor needs to treat the property owners and the federal government, treat the property owners just like the federal government.
Do you think the city should find a way to allow ride-sharing services or networking transportation companies like Uber and Lyft to start operating here?
You see, the city created the problem of the taxi cab industry with creating these licenses and only allowing so many. And now that the Uber and Lyft want to come into the market and the demand is very high for Uber and Lyft, the people of Anchorage want this, and we should let them have it. Competition is always better. It always drives down the cost. It makes things better. I understand that some of the taxi cab license owners are going to be sort of disenfranchised, but maybe the city can do something like letting them write off that as depreciation over a number of years. But we need to let Uber and Lyft into this city, and we need to do it sooner than a couple-year strategy. I would be in favor of, on say May 1st, let's have Uber and Lyft come back as long as the state allows it.
Last question for you.
Sure.
What is one promise that you would like to make to voters right now that you will fulfill if elected?
I am promising to always have an effective government. So what that means is that I want to make sure that every dollar that we spend is going to be put to good use, and it's not going to be wasteful spending. I also want to make sure that I want to be a voice for you. So if you want to contact me or call me, or you have an issue in the city, I want everyone to feel free to contact me, because I feel that the voter in Anchorage, the resident, really hasn't had a voice in today's government, and I feel that that's why I wanted to run for the assembly, is to have a voice for the average resident in Anchorage.
Albert Fogle running for South Anchorage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
All right, thanks.